you ever wondered what Formula One would look like if it had taken a totally different path? Like, instead of standardizing everything and forcing every team to think the same, what if they had just let creativity run wild? Well, that almost happened, and the name of that scrapped revolution goes by a weird code P34. This car looked like an April Fool's joke. 6 wheels, 4 in the front, 2 in the back, a design that looked like it came straight out of a kid's math class doodle spaceship style. But no, it was real. It was a real deal Formula One car. And more than that, it was fast. Fast enough to win an official race, scare the big teams, and maybe because of that, it was too fast to survive. And that's where the story gets good, because this isn't about some goofy car that flopped. It's about a car that worked, that got shut down by circumstances, and still makes us wonder to this day, does F1 really want innovation? Or just the kind that doesn't shake things up too much? By the way, if you're into this kind of story that barely anyone talks about, and you like seeing F1 from a different angle, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. There's a lot of wild stuff on the way. In the 70s, Formula One was kind of like a tech Wild West. None of today's obsession with rigid rulebooks, DRS zones, or penalties for stepping even a little out of line. Back then, engineers could play. They could take risks, and in that environment, the wild idea of the P34 was born. The guy behind it was Derek Gardner, an engineer at Tyrrell, and he wasn't there to follow anyone's formula. While the big teams were fighting over more powerful engines and bottomless budgets, he decided to look somewhere no one else was looking: the ground. More tire contact, more grip, less drag. The result? 4 tiny front wheels, 2 big ones in the back, and yeah, it looked ridiculous until it started moving. The logic was simple: smaller front wheels, and more of them, meant better grip in corners and less air resistance. And since nothing in the rules said you couldn't do it, boom, the 6-wheeled car was born. And the F1 world, used to weird innovations that lasted 2 practice sessions and disappeared, had to deal with something new, because the P34 didn't just work, it was a problem. Then, in the middle of this kind of surreal setup, came the thing nobody expected: a win. Yep, a legit Grand Prix victory. 1976 Swedish GP. Jody Scheckter first, Patrick Depailler second. A 1-2 finish, a slap in the face of traditional thinking, and a warning: Tyrrell was shaking things up. And that might have been the real issue, because it's one thing to innovate and still be stuck in the back, but it's a whole different story when your crazy idea actually starts threatening the front of the grid. And let's be real, big teams don't like it when an outsider's idea starts working. Formula One, for all its talk about being a creativity lab, has always been a tough place for bold ideas, and that's exactly what started happening with the P34. The car was good, but to be great, it needed continuous development, especially when it came to tires. And that's where the downfall began, not because Tyrrell dropped the ball, but because the people they depended on walked away. Goodyear, the supplier that made the special tires for the tiny front wheels, simply abandoned the project. Since no other team was copying the concept, the manufacturer decided it wasn't worth the investment. And just like that, Tyrrell was stuck running a 6-wheeled car on outdated rubber, while Ferrari and McLaren were getting fresh compounds almost every weekend. Sounds like a conspiracy theory? Maybe. But anyone who follows F1 closely knows when a small team starts shaking up the power balance too much, the walls start closing in. You don't need a straight-up ban. Just cut off the support, isolate the innovation, and watch it slowly die. And that's exactly what they did. The P34, which could have kicked off a whole new era, ended up as a museum piece in less than 2 years. By 1977, it was already showing signs of decline, not because the concept was flawed, but because no one wanted it to succeed. And since no other team tried to copy it, the FIA felt safe stepping in. Years later, the rules got updated. No more than 4 driven wheels allowed. End of story. Well, almost, because the P34 left a scar, a nagging reminder that maybe, just maybe, Formula One is afraid of what's truly new. Afraid that someone outside the usual power players might stumble upon something brilliant, and even more afraid that it might actually catch on. Which brings us to the question that just won't go away: what if they had let the project continue? Because seriously, it's impossible not to wonder, what if other teams had jumped on the idea? What if the FIA had supported it instead of shutting it down? Imagine a grid where cars didn't just look different in paint jobs or front wings, but in their entire concept. Some with 6 wheels, others with 4, maybe even some lunatic trying out 8. F1 could have turned into a full-on creativity fest, and the engineers, they'd be living their dream. But no, what we got was the exact opposite. Tyrrell's boldness got buried by a lack of support, and F1 quickly rushed to restore order. The rules got tighter, the space for wild ideas shrank, and the P34 became just another one of those brilliant flashes that shine for a moment and get wiped from the official story, as if it never really threatened the system. And that's what stings, because if you stop and think about it, the P34's problem was never technical. It proved it worked. It won races, landed on the podium, gave the big teams headaches. But in Formula One, being effective isn't enough. You've got to be part of the right club. You've got to play nice with the ones already in charge. And this pattern, it kept repeating. Brabham's fan car disappeared fast. Braun's double diffuser banned the next season. Red Bull's blown diffuser trick, new rules came in right after. Always the same story. A new idea shows up, gains an edge, becomes a target. The FIA loves to say it protects the sport, but deep down, it looks like it's protecting the power structure. And if you stray too far from the script, you're politely shown the door. We could have witnessed something amazing come out of the P34, a whole new way of thinking about performance, aerodynamics, traction, but instead, they chose to kill it in the cradle. The 1st of December, ided that this kind of revolution wasn't welcome, and the saddest part, most people didn't even question it. Of course, safety will always be the go-to excuse, but wouldn't a six-wheeled car be unstable? Wouldn't pit stops be more dangerous? Maybe, but let's be real, if the car ran official races, won, and passed inspection from legit engineers, that clearly wasn't the problem. The real issue was that it threatened the status quo, the comfort zone, and in Formula One, that tends to be way more sensitive than any high-speed corner. To me, that's one of the biggest ironies in the sport's history. F1 loves to sell itself as a place for brilliance, a playground where boundaries are constantly pushed, where the world's best engineers have the freedom to dream the unthinkable. But in practice, that freedom seems to have a ceiling, and it's a lot lower than they like to admit. Tyrrell tried to raise that ceiling, tried to show that thinking outside the box could be more than just a cool slogan, and because of that, they were shut down. The P34 became a museum piece, a documentary footnote, a fun fact for hardcore fans, but it never became a legacy, and that, to me, is the biggest loss. Imagine if that car had set a trend. Imagine a new generation of engineers growing up with that kind of reference point. Think about how far F1 could have gone in terms of project diversity, conceptual courage. Today, we've got a grid where most cars are basically clones of each other. Tiny differences, millimetric tweaks, all within the same mold. The P34 proved that things could be different, but they weren't allowed to be. So I come back to that question I asked at the start. Did Formula One ban the P34 for safety, or because it was just too good to be allowed? You might think I'm being dramatic, but look around. How many real innovations have you seen in recent years that were not shut down? How many revolutionary ideas made it past a single season before some rule update conveniently rolled in? At the end of the day, the story of the P34 is about way more than a six-wheeled car. It's about a sport that could be on the cutting edge, but sometimes chooses to play it safe. That has endless talent in the garages, but no guts in the rulebook. A sport that loves the word innovation as long as it doesn't rock the boat too much. And if you ask me whether F1 learned anything from the P34, well, I'll answer your question with another one. Have you seen another six-wheeled car on the grid since? Yeah, me neither. Now tell me in the comments, do you think Formula One made the right call shutting the project down, or did they kill a revolution before it even had a chance? I really want to know whose side you're on, team safety or team boldness, because if there's one thing this story makes crystal clear, it's that in Formula One, not every brilliant idea gets to survive, and sometimes the biggest threat to innovation is the system itself. Oh, and if you're a true fan of that bold era of F1, I've dropped some awesome F1 related Amazon finds in the description. Stuff that'll hit right in the heart of any motorsport lover. Go check it out. I'm Joseph, and this is Pit Stop Talk.